What is up, everybody? This is your boy, Teran Rodriguez, here with another episode of Set Point here on iSports Radio, your direct feed for all that sports. Thank you all for joining me on this beautiful Monday afternoon, Monday evening, Monday, wherever you are listening from and or watching from. Either way, you've made it way in episode 365 of Set Point. And without any further delay, let's begin. But first and foremost, Set Point would not be where it's at without iSports Radio providing the platform to go live on X and on YouTube. Please do follow iSports Radio on X and on Instagram. Also, make sure to subscribe to iSports Radio on YouTube if you haven't already. We would greatly appreciate it. We have surpassed 500 subscribers, but we want to get to 1,000 and beyond. And who knows, maybe I'll be able to post more volleyball content. I promise you all I'll be posting more volleyball content on the YouTube channel of iSports Radio. So if you want more volleyball content, you got to subscribe to iSports Radio as well. So there you go. Also, make sure to check out the iSports Radio website, iSportsRadio.com, for all of your latest sports news, our blog, our page dedicated to each show, such as Set Point, and so much more. For the last 12 years, iSports Radio has been bringing you amazing content ranging from interviewing legendary athletes, coaches, and other authorized media personnel to building tailor-made shows dedicated to all major sports around the country. Thank you to everyone for all of your support and for making iSports Radio your direct feed for all that sports. Before we get on into our volleyball content, let's talk about what iSports Radio is all about and who they are. So, without any further delay, I'll see you all in a bit.
For the last 10 years, iSports Radio has been bringing you amazing content ranging from interviewing legendary athletes, coaches, and other authorized media personnel to building tailor-made shows dedicated to all major sports cities around the country. Make sure to follow us at iSports Radio on X, Instagram, Facebook, TikTok, and YouTube to keep up with the latest in sports and with all of our shows. Also, make sure to check out our daily updated website at iSportsRadio.com. At iSportsRadio.com, you can see our daily show schedule and check out all of our show pages with personal bios to learn a little bit more about each of our awesome hosts. In addition to our show pages, you can catch the iSports Radio blog, Hall of Fame, Fans of the Month page, and our merchandise shop including t-shirts, tank tops, caps, long sleeves, hoodies, and more. For now over a decade here at iSports Radio, we've continued to be by the fans, for the fans, and we thank you all for your support and for making iSports Radio your direct feed for all that is sports.
That's right, everybody. Definitely check out iSportsRadio.com and also subscribe to iSports Radio. I promise you all I'll be getting that volleyball content up real soon. I swear it. And I also promise you all I'll be getting more of my other volleyball, USA Canada volleyball content on the TikTok account, which reminds me, the way you can follow Set Point on social media is on X and on TikTok at set_point.ie. You could also follow me personally as well on X at Teran Rodriguez 1. You could also follow Set Point on Instagram, which is where I'm starting to become more active at set_point.iesr. Also, Set Point is on Facebook as well. All I just got to do is type in the word Set Point and then boom. The icon where I had the beach icon, the beach background is basically the official page for Set Point. Any other pages of Set Point are fake. It's basically the beach profile pic, which I might want to get changed to the AI generated pic, but I digress. Anyway, so with all of that said and done, welcome to season 8 of Set Point. So yeah, we're already in season 8. Hard to believe, which is really cool if you ask me. I mean, honestly, it's hard to believe that I've done 8 seasons. I'm going to be 8 seasons of Set Point, and this year is going to mark 7 years of Set Point, which I think is really cool. So, yeah, season 8 of Set Point. It feels like time goes by so quickly. So So strap in, gang, lock in, and let's talk some volleyball. So we had the NCAA Women's Volleyball Week 0. I made a mistake. So I thought it was Week 1 last week. So that's my bad, but it's Week 0. So, yeah, it's hard to believe. Yeah, I understand why it's Week 0 and not Week 1. Because, honestly, Week 0, not everyone is playing. There's only a handful of teams that are playing. So far, there's just a few teams playing, like Pitt, Kentucky, Wisconsin, Louisville, Texas A&M, SMU, Texas, Marquette. Speaking of Marquette, Texas, that matchup is actually going on right now, and it's actually tied 1-1. I wish I had turned on my TV, but well. And I don't want that matchup to distract me anyway. And also, I can't have the whatchamacallit, the game on in the background with any sounds, just because I don't want to get copyright, and I don't want IE Sports Radio to get deleted, and I don't want to get fired, because if so, that means no more set point. But I digress. Anyway, so yeah, we had some NCAA women's volleyball happening. I mean, there was the First Serve Showcase, or First Serve from the AVCA, sponsored by Jeep. That's kind of the correct vernacular. This took place at the Pfizer Forum. So the first matchup we had was a rematch of last year's Sweet 16 matchup. It was Louisville versus Texas A&M. So A&M, obviously the reigning national champions, and I like this matchup. This is a great rematch just because A&M, obviously, it kind of reminds me of the NFL, where the reigning Super Bowl champion takes on a really good team that can pique the interest of anybody. So you had that right there, and they took on Louisville. And just to spin you all a little bit of a story, Louisville lost to Texas A&M. They were reverse swept out of the Sweet 16. And fun fact, I actually picked Louisville to advance past Texas A&M in the Sweet 16. So I apologize to Texas A&M. I was not familiar with your game. But yeah, this matchup was a little bit more different. Texas A&M got hit hard in terms of graduation, and it's a bummer because well, obviously they had so many good seniors, but they still brought in some good other good players, like Natalie Ring. Apparently, she was one other volleyball content creator's number 1 pick for most impactful transfer. I can say she's like top 5, maybe top 10 in terms of like impacting transfers, but I don't know about number 1. I mean, no offense to this person. This person obviously knows ball, but honestly, it's like I don't think she's number 1 in my opinion. Like, she's gonna do great things for Texas A&M, but Natalie Ring, I wouldn't call her the number 1 impact transfer. But I digress. And I don't even have. By the way, I don't even have FS2. What's a drag? No FS2 means I can't watch it. Gosh darn it, man. Anyway, as for Louisville, they returned quite a bit of their players, like Nyelis Cabello, Calissa Blackshear. They also got Peyton Peterson. They got Chloe Chacoin. Speaking of Peyton Peterson, she actually was playing libero, so this was actually quite surprising. So she was in the libero jersey as opposed to playing her primary position in what was it? Outside hitter. Yeah. So either way, Louisville did take down Texas A&M in 4. I thought winning that second set was pivotal for Louisville. I thought losing that second set really kind of put Texas A&M behind the 8 ball. And in the defense of Texas A&M, they did not have. Oh God, man, how am I blanking? I'm already blanking on half these names. They didn't have one of their top players, and that really makes a massive difference. And oh my God, that's just a bummer. That's just a bummer, just because she actually got hurt in terms of warm-ups. And Kendall Stowers is her name. Okay, so that's going to be something I'm going to try to get better at. I'm going to try to remember a good chunk of these names, which, I mean, it's a lot of names, yes, just because unlike NCAA men's volleyball, NCAA women's volleyball has like over 200 teams, but I digress. But yeah, I do got to do better in terms of like remembering a lot of these names off the top of my head. And even if I have to make like spark notes or cliff notes or sticky notes. But yeah, Kendall Stowers was out for Texas A&M, which really is a drag. I really think that not having her really impacted the Aggies. But they did take the third set, but unfortunately, unfortunately for them, Louisville was able to take that fourth set in the match. Louisville had kind of a balanced effort. They had 19 kills from Chloe Chicoine. They got 11 kills from Brooke Bultema, who was who transferred in to Louisville. Chloe Meester also had 11 kills. Calissa Blackshear wasn't really her flashy self. She only had 6 kills, but she didn't really need to be her flashy self. I mean, she's going to definitely do better things for Louisville. I just think that this matchup, you just saw the blooming of some of these newcomers like Chloe Meester and Brooke Bultema. And Peyton Pearson was fantastic at the libero position. She had 24 digs, which was very nice. Nayelis Cabello had 45 assists along with 4 kills, which was nice. She also had 9 digs as well. As a team, Louisville hit 241 while A&M only hit 152. Natalie Ring led the way for the Aggies with 11 kills, while Taryn Morris and Eliza Sharp both had 10 kills. The libero for Texas A&M, Gabby Rodriguez, she's not related to me, so spare me the whole, is she related to you? No. Gabby Rodriguez had 18 digs. She is definitely going to be a blossoming in terms of the libero position. But Texas A&M is still a work in progress following their national championship run. So there you have it. So the next matchup we had from ABCA First Serve was number 3 Kentucky taking on number 6 Wisconsin. Now let me paint you a picture with this matchup. This was another rematch from the NCAA tournament as Kentucky knocked out Wisconsin in 5 in the Final Four, which was a barn burner of a matchup. But yeah, Kentucky returns a good chunk of its team. Wisconsin's a little bit more younger, but they did kind of excel in the transfer portal, getting players like Eva Travis, and their freshman class is just unbelievable, dude, which I'll be talking about more in a little bit. And obviously they have Charlie Furbringer, who is a fantastic setter. But as for this matchup, this was a really okay. Unfortunately, I didn't get a chance to watch this matchup because I had work. But I didn't really miss much as Kentucky took down Wisconsin in straight sets. Now, I did rewatch the matchup. I was actually very impressed with how Kentucky just straight up bullied Wisconsin. But that kind of comes with Wisconsin's youth and inexperience. But that said, Kentucky was on fire when it came to this matchup. Brooklyn DeLay had 12 kills. Morgan Gardy had 10 kills. They also got 8 kills from Lizzie Carr, 7 kills from Asia Thigpen. I will just say that Cassie O'Brien just set the offense really well. Molly Tuzzo had 12 digs. As a team, Kentucky at 380, which was very nice. They held Wisconsin to only a hitting percentage of 186 as Ava Travis led the way with 13 kills. Audrey Flanagan had 9 kills. The youngsters from SoCal are starting to really shine. I also got 8 kills from Linny Tarno. They got 9 digs from Audrey Flanagan. Unfortunately, it was just not enough. Furbringer also had 8 digs to go along with 36 assists. Unfortunately, it was just not enough for Wisconsin. It's still early in the season. Wisconsin was obviously going to have some of their ups and downs, but unfortunately, they kind of ran into I wouldn't say a buzzsaw, but they kind of ran into a brick wall, and that brick wall's name was Kentucky. But speaking of Wisconsin, Wisconsin did have a nice little bounce back. They were the number 6 Badgers took on the number 7 Louisville Cardinals. And yes, I will just say I wasn't the only one that made a 6-7 reference. Emily Eamon during the Fox broadcast, she made a 6-7 reference. And afterwards, she was like, I didn't even know I made a 6-7 reference. It's like, gotta love Emily Eamon. Anyway, as for this matchup, number 6 Wisconsin bounced back very nicely and took down number 7 Louisville in straight sets. And honestly, I saw this matchup and I saw the matchup following this one. This was kind of a schoolyard beatdown, in my opinion. I thought Wisconsin was just strong and dominant throughout a good portion of this match. There were some times where Louisville had their moments, but honestly, I was just overall impressed with Wisconsin. And Audrey Flanagan led the way with 13 kills. She also had 8 digs, which was very nice. She also had 2 aces, too. Jayla August and Ava Travis both had 8 kills. As a team, the Badgers hit 327. They also got 11 digs from Anna Bardaro. And then Charlie Furbringer had 6 kills to go along with 33 assists as well as 8 digs. Like, everything clicked perfectly for Wisconsin. Everything was perfect. Perfect. All the way down to the detail. Meanwhile, for Louisville, they were led by Chloe Chicoine and Calissa Blackshear, both having 10 kills. Chloe Meester had 9 kills. And then they also got 6 kills from Brooke Bultema. As a team, Louisville hit 234. For a loss, that's not terrible, but obviously it wasn't anything flashy and perfect. Peyton Peterson was the libero again for the Cardinals. She had 16 digs. Naelis Cabello had 26 assists. Unfortunately, it was just not enough as Wisconsin held Louisville to only 3 blocks, but same can be said for Louisville. So overall, Wisconsin just had more pop in their game. And honestly, this was a nice bounce back win. I was just impressed with the Badgers overall. I at first I thought that Louisville didn't cross 20 points at any point, but they did cross 20 points in the second set. But yeah, this was just an overall dominant performance from the Badgers. This was the reason why I think most people are still kind of high on Wisconsin this year. So you have that right there. Now let's go on into matchup number 4, which was set on matchup number 2 on Saturday, matchup number 4 overall, as we had number 12 Arizona State, led by head coach J.J. Van Niel, upsetting number 2 Texas in 4. Now, you all are probably wondering, how did Texas lose this one? Now, in the defense of Texas, they seem to always struggle with season openers for the most part. Notice the word "for the most part." I know last year they took Wisconsin to the shed, but honestly, Texas kind of struggles with these season openers. I remember 3 years ago they lost to Long Beach State after they were number 1 in the nation. I was there for that matchup, and boy howdy, it was a fun matchup. And I think they also lost to Minnesota. So basically, Texas struggles in the first week of the regular season, minus last year, because we all know they took Wisconsin to the shed last year. But Arizona State just looked so dominant, dude. And Volleyball X, or Volleyball Twitter, was just bugging out big time. So Arizona State dominated the first 2 sets, winning those sets by scores of 25-17. I thought Texas kind of found their footing in the third set, winning at 25-19. But then the fourth set, Arizona State was up by as many as, I think, 10 or so. I think 11. Either way, the Sun Devils took the fourth set 25-18 and the match. Just an overall strong performance from the Sun Devils, as this might be one of J.J. Van Niel's best wins as a head coach. The Sun Devils were led by Noemi Glover, who had 13 kills. Una Vajicic had 12 kills, and then Maeva Schalk added 10 kills. As a team, the Sun Devils only hit 123, but they did hold Texas to under 100. They hit only 65. They also got 15 digs from Faith Frame, and then they also got 10 digs from Noemi Glover and 9 kills from Vajicic. And then Ellie Mototola had 31 assists. And then I think they also got 3 kills from the former Long Beach State middle blocker, Ella Lamagora, which I'm glad she's excelling well. Any Long Beach State player that excels at another university, I am rooting for. Anyway, so for Texas, they were led by 3 players who had 9 kills. Kari Spears, Nia Bunton, and then Tori Stafford. And I did see a Pitt fan who was just happy that Texas A&M lost, just because this person was still a little, I wouldn't say bitter or salty about Tori Stafford transferring, but obviously that person was disappointed that Tori Stafford transferred to Texas, but I digress. Ramsey Gary did have herself a masterclass performance. She had 14 digs. She also even had a kill, which was very nice. But like I said, only hitting 65 is not going to get the job done. The setter for Texas was Orella Binney. So everyone was wondering, where the heck is Ella Swindle? I don't know where Ella Swindle is. It's not my turn to watch her. Genevieve Harris also had 8 assists to go along with 7 digs. So, yeah, Texas was serving the you-know-what out of the ball, but they were missing quite a bit of serves. They had 17 service errors, and just like on the men's side, you can't win a match with a bunch of service errors. Though their blocking was good. They had 14 blocks as a team, even though Arizona State had 13 blocks. But I digress. Either way, there was a lot of defense being played in this matchup, and I will just say Texas just did not look like the number 2 team in the nation. I will say Arizona State looked like a top 5 team, if not top 10 team. I mean, it's a little too early to put Arizona State on a pedestal, but if I'm USC, I'm kind of sweating for that matchup against Arizona State because I'm going to be covering a lot of USC women's volleyball this year. They're going to be in for a rough ride against Arizona State. If Arizona State plays like that, USC and or Creighton, it might not be able to stop them. Like, Arizona State is going to be so freaking good. And honestly, it's really tough to, not say that Arizona State's going to win the whole thing. Or, well, win the Big 12 at least. Do I think they can go deep in the NCAA tournament? Of course. Do I think they can win it all? That remains to be seen. But I was just overall impressed with that win over Texas. Like, I know Texas does struggle in the first week, but still, Arizona State just proved themselves that they are indeed deserving of being in the top 10. Jumping over to Sunday's matchup. So the first matchup, unfortunately, I didn't really get a chance to watch. I had to rewatch the playback. But number 11 SMU, which a lot of people are high on, took on number 8 Texas A&M, and the Mustangs took down the Aggies in straight sets. First set, I thought, was kind of the tipping point of the match, where SMU wound up winning that first set 27-25. It was a tight set that was won. Eventually, SMU wound up, I wouldn't say cruising past A&M in the next 2 sets, but just winning in comfortable fashion for the most part. But yeah, the number 1 Aggie, or not Aggies, number 1 Mustangs took down the number 8 Aggies, as the number 11 Mustangs were led by Suli Davis, who had 15 kills. Great debut from her after transferring from BYU. They also got 9 kills from Gabby Placide. I'm sorry if I mispronounce any of these words, I apologize. But Gabby Placide had 9 kills. They also got 13 digs from Victoria Harris. They also got 33 assists from Hannah Buford, I think she made her debut in terms of SMU as the setter. Either way, SMU just really performed well in this matchup. I think that winning the first set was kind of the tipping point of that match. And then Natalie Ring led the way for Texas A&M with 13 kills. Megan Fitch added 10 kills. As a team, the Aggies only hit 125 compared to SMU's 301, which is nice. And also, the Mustangs had 13 blocks, which I was ultimately impressed with, though the Aggies also had 7 blocks. But they didn't have any players that cracked double digits in terms of digs. But it is what it is. And look, once Texas A&M gets Kendall Stowers back, they'll be fine. I just think they held her out because of a precaution as she got hurt in warm-ups. But it is what it is, and, sometimes you just can't turn off injuries in terms of these volleyball matches. It's not like Madden where you can turn off injuries, but I digress. All right, now we had the match of the week, the marquee match of the week. We had number 4 Pitt taking on number 3 Kentucky. This could be a potential NCAA tournament preview or maybe a national championship preview. But to paint a picture of this matchup, you had Kentucky, which was the national finalist from last year, taking on a team that's been to the Final Four for the past 5 years. But unfortunately, they were always the bridesmaid and never the bride. And I really feel bad for Pitt. But number 4 Pitt really impressed against number 3 Kentucky as they wound up winning in 4. Most of the sets that Pitt won were just straight up beatdowns. Now, set 1, Pitt wound up winning that first set 25-14. The second set, it was actually tight until Kentucky managed to get 3 service aces from Brooklyn Delay, 3 straight service aces for Brooklyn Delay to end the set. I think it was 21-21, and then Kentucky just straight up wound up winning. I think it might have been 21-20 in favor. No, it was 21-21. But either way, Kentucky closed off on a 4-0 run, which was very impressive. But the third set, it was actually tied 9-9. Yes, 9-9 reference to the broadcasters from Volleyball World that reference Brooklyn Nine-Nine, but I digress. But Pitt wound up holding Kentucky to only 4 points after it was tied 9-9 as Pitt took the third set 25-13, and they also took the fourth set 25-21. Eventually, Kentucky tried to make it a little bit more interesting, but Pitt built a sizable lead, and they just could not let go. They just didn't let go. As I was just impressed by Pitt. Now, all eyes were on Izzy Stark as she was making her Pitt debut, and she shined. She had 41 assists and 13 digs. Olivia Babcock, to no one's surprise, led the way with 27 kills and 9 digs. They also got 10 kills from Blair Bayless. They also got 10 digs from Trinity Thompson, 8 digs from Blair Bayless, and Babcock had 9 digs as well. So overall, what did I think of this matchup? Well, Izzy Stark and Olivia Babcock are a problem in terms of other opposing teams. And I'm so glad Izzy Stark is back playing volleyball again. And for those that don't know, Izzy Stark unfortunately took last year off due to mental health reasons. But I'm glad she is back playing volleyball again, as she is playing for Pitt, and she is just shining really well. And I'm so happy she is back she's back on the volleyball court in general. A couple players to watch for. Blair Bayless, as I mentioned. She had 10 kills. Obviously, she has experience with this Pitt team. And then another one is Ayanna Watson. Is it Ayanna or Ayanna? Either way, Ayanna Watson had 6 kills, 0 hitting errors. She had 300. She is going to be a nice weapon for Pitt this year. So do not sleep on her. I think this Pitt team definitely can make another run to the Final Four. If they can win it all is my biggest concern, just because you still have Nebraska, you still have Texas, you have Louisville, you have Wisconsin. Who else is going to be good this year? Penn State, I'm not ultimately sold on. I got to see what they have in the tank for us. A&M is still a work in progress, especially with Stowers out. SMU is probably going to be good. They're going to be seeing them twice in ACC play. Stanford obviously is going to be up there. So Pitt has a lot to prove this year. I know I want to see them win a national championship. I want to see Olivia Babcock win a ring, but there's just a lot of competition, and for Pitt, they're going to need to really play their best ball when it truly matters. So those are the Sunday slate matchups. Now for today's matchup. So we had 2 matchups on Monday to close off the first serve. So the first matchup was number 4 Pitt taking on Xavier. So this was kind of the unranked versus ranked matchup, and Pitt wound up sweeping Xavier 26-24, 25-13, and 25-18. I didn't get a chance to watch this matchup, but I think just like some of the other sweeps that happened, I didn't miss much. The first set I thought was another tipping point set for Pitt, as I think they kind of sucked the helium out of, or not the helium, they sucked the oxygen out of Xavier, because Xavier dodged 4 set points. So if you're keeping up, Xavier was down 24-20, and then they rattled off 4 straight points to tie it up at 24-24. But Pitt rattled off 2 straight points to take the first set 26-24. And eventually Pitt pretty much handled Xavier for the most part, as the Panthers were led by Blair Bayless, who had 13 kills. You know, Pitt was on its A game when they didn't need Olivia Babcock to carry the team, as Babcock had 12 kills and she had 5 digs. They also got 10 digs from Izzy Stark and 29 assists from Izzy Stark as well. If I had to make a starting rotation of the week, I would probably put Izzy Stark there. Ayanna Watson also had 8 kills, which I thought was very impressive by her. As a team, Pitt hit 367, and they also had 9 blocks. And they also had 36 assists, as well as a good service error ratio of 6-8. 6 aces to 8 errors. Now for Xavier, they were led by Charlotte Moriarty. She had 17 kills. She had 325. Kelsey Nielsen had 10 digs to lead Xavier in that department. Other than Moriarty, there wasn't really anyone that kind of stepped up, as McKinley Bohm had 4 kills. Xavier leaned on Charlotte Moriarty so much that she actually had half of the overall kills from Xavier, and that's kind of a concern for Xavier. If they're going to have success in the Big East Conference, which good luck with trying to take down the likes of Creighton and Marquette potentially. But if Xavier is going to want to have success in the Big East, they're going to need to have another player step up. I mean, it's kind of like the same thing with Pitt, but now they have other weapons like Watson and Bayless. But Xavier, it's kind of tough to win a matchup against a top 5 team. But I will also just say that it's the beginning of their season. This was kind of a baptism by fire matchup. So nothing to really cry too much about if you're Xavier. But man, hopefully this isn't a sign of things to come. But it's well early in the season. They'll be fine. So now we jump on into the final matchup that's happening right now. Number 2 Texas taking on Marquette. Remember when I said Texas and Marquette were tied 1-1? Well, it's about to be 2-1 Texas, as Texas just now took the third set 25-16 for a 2-1 lead in the match. So I'll give it up to Marquette, even though they did kind of lose Natalie Ring to the transfer portal and they lost a few others to graduation and whatnot. They're hanging tough with Texas. I just think this is going to be Texas's match. This is Texas's match to lose. If they lose this matchup, oh man, Nebraska volleyball social media is going to go wild. I already can see Nebraska fans just literally trolling Texas after losing to if they lose to Marquette. But I think Texas is going to win this one just because Marquette is just starting their season. And this is kind of another baptism by fire matchup, especially since Texas does need a bounce back. They can ill afford to start 0-2. I mean, obviously they'll still have success in the SEC, but 0-2 and losing to Marquette and to the likes of Arizona State, even though Arizona State's probably going to have a great season, it would be ill-advised for Texas. Like 0-2 is just kind of a concern, but I digress. All right, but that's that for week 0 of the NCAA women's volleyball season. Who stood out to you? I mean, for me, I think my team of the week is going to probably be it's probably going to be Pitt. I mean, going over I forgot to kind of go over the Kentucky side of things when it came to the Kentucky-Pittsburgh matchup. But Kentucky kind of struggled, and by kind of struggled, I meant Brooklyn DeLay kind of struggled. Even though she did have 13 kills, she did have 11 hitting errors, and she only hit 48, which was so tough. And those 13 kills didn't even lead the team, as Morgan Gardy led Kentucky with 14 kills. Lizzie Carr added 8 kills. But what Brooklyn DeLay kind of struggled in terms of hitting the ball, she actually made up for in terms of serving the ball, as she had 3 service aces. All 3 of those aces came in set number 2 when she helped clinch the set for the Wildcats, which was very impressive. Molly Tuzzo also had 16 digs. Cassie O'Brien had 38 assists. She set the offense to the best of her ability. I forgot to mention Pitt also had 14 blocks while holding Kentucky to only 6. And Kentucky only hit 86, which is not going to win you a whole lot of games against a top 5 team. Well, Pitt hit 297, which was very impressive if you ask me. But yeah, I kind of forgot to go over Kentucky stats against Pitt, but I digress. But overall, who do you think stood out? I mean, I think Pitt's going to be my team of the week. I mean, honorable mention has to go to Arizona State. But I think that getting back-to-back wins is not an easy feat. I mean, there could have been an easy letdown against Xavier, because Xavier's a legit team. Everyone thinks that just because they're a mid-major, they're not good. They are good. Xavier is the real deal, and there's a reason why they made the NCAA tournament last year. So do not sleep on Xavier by any means. But beating Kentucky was very impressive. Pitt started out its season pretty much with not with cold feet, but they started their season off cold turkey, but they did not look cold by any means. They were red hot, and yeah, Izzy Stark and Olivia Babcock are going to be a legit duo for the NCAA women's volleyball world. All right, that's that right there for the NCAA women's volleyball portion of the show for week 0. I will be previewing week 1 a little later, but we have other volleyball to discuss. So let's actually talk a little high school girls volleyball. The AVCA poll is actually still the same this week, so nothing really changed as not everyone played in week 0, but I digress. So in high school girls volleyball, if the thing wants to... Okay, there it is. So in high school girls volleyball, Mater Dei took down Los Alamitos last Tuesday. I was at this matchup. I was impressed with both teams. Mater Dei obviously swept Los Alamitos, but the Griffins kind of held their own against the Monarchs. But unfortunately, it was just not enough as Mater Dei, they have so much depth on their team. And the crazy part is that they're not at full strength. They still have a few players out due to the 30-day sit-out period, but I digress. But Los Alamitos, I thought, impressed me. In that matchup, they impressed me even though they got swept. Now, the other matchup, they did actually lose a second matchup. They lost to Long Beach Poly, which is a storied program, but the problem is that now they've lost 2 straight. They can't ill afford to lose 3 straight just because they've got a Sunset League play starting off this week. So other matchups that happened, or other marquee matchups that happened in girls volleyball that I kind of kept tabs on were Marymount beating Redondo Union. So Marymount, for those that don't know, they're from Los Angeles, and they're an all-girls school. They're the girls equivalent to Loyola of Los Angeles. So there you have it right there. And then Redondo Union is obviously a well-known program. I should also mention some notables that came out of Marymount High School, or Aaliyah Rubin, Grace Froling, Devin Newberry. The list goes on and on. And then some notable players that are played in NCAA women's volleyball, or that are playing in NCAA women's volleyball that came out of Redondo Union are Abby Zimmerman, Megan J. Rice, who's crushing it in the AVP, Noreen Yosia, Melee Coral Blagojevic. I think she's still playing for Mississippi State. If memory serves me right. Who else came? There's so many players that came out of Redondo. Taylor Boyce. I almost said Megan Boyce. Taylor Boyce, middle blocker playing for UC Irvine. A lot of players that came out of Redondo Union. Tommy Chaffins did an excellent job with that program. Might be one of the top premier girls volleyball public schools in California. Not to disrespect the other public schools and not to disrespect the private schools, but you know what I mean. So for Redondo Union, they have a new head coach in Lacey Minsloff. Minsloff was the assistant last year. This is her second year as a coach for Redondo. Her first as head coach. She actually came from Palos Verdes, which was one of the rivals from Redondo Union. So unfortunately for Redondo, Marymount kind of spoiled the party in terms of her coaching debut, but it's still a long ways to go. So no big deal when it comes to that. But as for the national, I guess Sierra Canyon, who is still number 1 in the nation, they took down West Ranch and Windward. So West Ranch is a team that made the CIF Southern Section Division II finals, which is not bad by any means. Like, Division II is basically, I know everyone's going to say like 13th place, but Division II does have some good teams like Santa Margarita, which has Ireland Reel, Kate Jackson, formerly Memphis Burnett before she graduated, Ella Opene, who's committed to UC Davis for beach volleyball, Marley Bemis, who's committed to Oregon State. So that team, that Santa Margarita team, keep an eye out for that team. But yeah, Sierra Canyon just continues to roll. They are 10-0 if I'm not mistaken. As again, they're still number 1 in the nation. Right behind them is Mater Dei. Then you have Cornerstone Christian at number 3. It's Cornerstone Christian of Texas. Assumption of Kentucky is number 4. Orangewood Christian is number 5. They're from Florida. Prestonwood Christian of Texas is number 6. Xavier College Prep is number 7. They're from Arizona. Allen, Texas is number 8. Highland Park of Texas is number 9. Harrisburg of South Dakota is number 10. Torrey Pines of San Diego, California is number 11. Blue Valley West of Kansas is number 12. Cathedral Catholic of San Diego, California is number 13. Papillion La Vista South of not New England. But no, Nebraska. How am I blanking on this? Papillion La Vista South of Nebraska is number 14. I'm sorry, Nebraska fans. North of Nebraska is number 15. Marist of Illinois is number 16. Divine Savior of Holy Angels of Wisconsin is number 17. Duncanville of Texas is number 18. They're more than just a football school, by the way. Marymount, the team that I just talked about, is number 19. They're from Los Angeles. Mercy Academy of Minnesota is number 20. Carroll of Indiana is 21. Iolani of Hawaii is 22. Byron Nelson, last year's national champion, is number 23. Calvary Christian of Florida is number 24. And then Lovett of Georgia rounds off the top 25 on Max Preps. So there you have it right there. That is pretty much your top 25 in terms of Max Preps. And as for this week's notable matchups, I don't think Sierra Canyon is playing anyone of note. I know Mater Dei plays the likes of Corona Centennial. No, we're not talking football. We're talking girls volleyball. Corona Centennial, they have a solid girls volleyball team. I don't think their girls volleyball team is bad by any means. They have some studs on that team, and their head coach does an excellent job with that program. So put some respect on their name. But yeah, Mater Dei, Sierra Canyon is 10-0 to start the season. They play Quartz Hill on Thursday. They should probably roll past them. There were some rumors that they were going to take on another top team from the southern section, but the other team unfortunately kind of backed out. But I'm not going to give out names just because I don't want to embarrass anybody, and I don't want anyone to, think that I'm dunking on anybody, but I digress. But yeah, Sierra Canyon is going to probably be 11-0 this week. I would be surprised if they lost to Quartz Hill. I'm sorry, but that's a team they're not going to be losing to. With all due respect to Quartz Hill. But, for Mater Dei, they've got Centennial Tuesday, and then they've got Thursday at Redondo Union. That is going to be a good one. Redondo Union Mater Dei is always a banger of a matchup in girls volleyball. That's a very, 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 very good matchup right there. Too bad I am busy that day. Otherwise, I'd maybe make the trek down to Redondo Beach. But it is what it is sometimes, and, them's the breaks. I'm sure the Mater Dei parents are going to be streaming it on, I think, Discord or Twitch. You're allowed to do that. It's just that you just can't stream it publicly just because, to my knowledge. I think you just got to get clearance from CIF, but I digress. But yeah, Redondo also plays Bishop Montgomery. They're going to look to try to bounce back against after suffering a tough loss against Marymount. They also play Long Beach Poly the day after they take on Mater Dei. That's a tricky matchup just because Poly is a good team. If Poly plays like they did against Los Alamitos, Poly could potentially hang, if not beat, Redondo. But they also kind of have the benefit of playing in their gym. Nothing against Poly's gymnasium, but that's one of the more old school gymnasiums. It's sweltering hot in California, so I imagine it's gonna be like in the 90s in Long Beach. I mean, it's in the high 80s from where I live, but I digress. Anyway, also Marymount took down Palos Verdes in 4, which is pretty nice. So Marymount also has West Ranch, which that should be a decent opponent. Then they've got Notre Dame of Sherman Oaks, which is, I guess, kind of a good team. And then the big matchup is on September 8th when Marymount hosts Sierra Canyon. That is going to be for round 1 of the potential Mission League Championship. And then also Marymount plays at Mira Costa on the 10th, which I think is going to be a very fun matchup. If I recall correctly, I think that's a Saturday matchup between Costa and Sierra Canyon, which or it actually might be a Thursday matchup. I know I'm looking way too far down the pipeline, but I think it might be. I think the Sierra Canyon matchup will be a Tuesday match, and then Miracosta is a Thursday match. I mean, I've never seen Miracosta play on Saturday unless it's for a tournament, but it is what it is. But yeah, that's pretty much going to do it for the high school girls volleyball portion of the show. That's and let me know if I missed any other girls volleyball big time matchups or whatnot. But yeah, that's pretty much that for the high school girls volleyball portion of the show. We're going to take ourselves a quick commercial break. When we come back, we will have the preview of the AVP League Championship, and then we'll preview week 1 of the NCAA women's volleyball season, and then I'll send you all on your way. So keep it locked here. You are watching and listening to Set Point here on IE Sports Radio, your direct feed for all that sports. We'll be right back after this.
Is made from the stadium lights to the stadium shade. The clubhouse crews, the on-field MCs, delicious park food and the summer breeze. Every voice in the game. Catch Dirt and Diamonds every single week. The California League coverage that you seek with Larry B and Freddie B. Every minor league season for the latest in the California League with Larry B and Freddie B on IE Sports Radio. Keep that dirt flying, and we'll see you next pitch.
That's right, everybody. Definitely check out Dirt and Diamonds, as well as all of our shows on IE Sports Radio on YouTube. IE Sports Radio is your direct feed for all that sports. Well, we are back with segment number 2 of Set Point. So now let's get on into some AVP. So I promised you all that we'll be circling the wagons back to NCAA women's volleyball, just because I know a lot of you really want me to go back to talking about that. Just because everyone is super hyped that NCAA women's volleyball is back, which I wish everyone would have that same energy and hype for NCAA men's volleyball. I'm looking at you, NCAA. Shame on you. And I'm looking at everybody. I'm looking at the every volleyball content creator who covers women's volleyball but never men's volleyball. I'm looking at you, NCAA. I'm looking at all the organizations who don't show and grow the game of NCAA men's volleyball. Anyway, so I actually do want to give an update on Marquette, Texas. So Marquette actually leads 15-10 in set 4, which, oh man, we have not gotten one 5-setter in the AVCA first serve. We could be getting 5 sets, baby, but we shall see. All right, so now let's get on into the AVP portion of the show. I know it's not as glamorous, but AVP League Championship preview. Let's go, baby. Anyway, so the AVP League Championship, this is the last week of the AVP. Well, in terms of like its notable tournament. There are still a few other tournaments, but I digress. So for the AVP League, obviously the AVP League Championship is going to be taking place in Chicago, Illinois. So here's the tournament field. So the top 2 seeds on the men's side are as follows. The top 2 seeds are Andy Besh and Taylor Crabb. They're the number 1 seed, and then Trevor Crabb and Phil Dahlhauser. So they're on their respective teams. Benish and Crabb are on the Miami Mayhem, while Trevor Crabb and Phil Dahlhauser are on the Palm Beach Passion. I will just say, Beach Volleyball Database, it would kind of be nice if you kind of put the actual team names instead of just the pairs, but I digress. But the cup champions for each of the teams were, on the women's side was the Palm Beach Passion, and then on the men's side, it was the Miami Mayhem. So there you go. I will just say that the Palm Beach Passion and Miami Mayhem were just absolute cheat codes when it came to their season, but I digress. Anyway, as for the women's side, the top 2 seeds are Melissa Humana-Paredes and Brandy Wilkerson. They're the number 1 seed of the Palm Beach Passion. And then the number 2 seed is actually Taryn Brasher and Kristen Cruz of the Austin Aces. So there was a lot of drama on that final day, and Taryn Brasher and Kristen Cruz made a massive push to basically get that number 2 seed. Whereas the former number 2 seed, Kelly Cheng and Megan Kraft, they got bumped down to number 3. So they actually have a matchup to start off with in terms of the quarterfinals. But let's preview. So let's start off with let's be chivalrous and go ladies first. So quarterfinal matchup number 1 is Kylie DeBerg and Betsy Flint taking on Lexi Denneberg and Julia Donlin. All right, this matchup. This is an interesting matchup. So it's Dallas Dream versus the Brooklyn Blaze. So last year's champion, Donlin and Denneberg, will be taking on a very good duo in DeBerg and Flint. Here's the thing for those two. Last time I saw DeBerg and Flint take on Denneberg and Donlin, it was just a schoolyard beatdown from DeBerg and Flint. And, well, okay, maybe not the first set, but the second set was a schoolyard beatdown. And the reason being is because DeBerg was just a force at the net. There's a reason why DeBerg might be one of the more budding stars in terms of USA Volleyball and the AVP. Also, DeBerg has the experience in terms of the AVP League because she's been playing in the AVP League since the AVP League first started. She was on that Dallas Dream team that made it all the way to the championship match. She's still on the Dallas Dream team. She just has a new partner because Haley Harward is partnered with Jolani Hodel, but I digress. So last year's champion is Lexi Denneberg and Julia Donlin. Oh, this one's going to be fun. So, look, it's tough to really determine this just because Flint I wouldn't say she's revived her career, but after being in limbo in terms of mommyhood, she's kind of really brought herself back. And Kylie DeBerg just is a force at the net. Remember, Kylie DeBerg's like 6'4", if not 6'5", I want to say. Either way, DeBerg she's just fantastic, and she's unbelievable in terms of defending. Now, that being said, Donlin and Denneberg are both a good pair. This is like the toughest matchup to predict. DeBerg's height really gives her and Flint the edge, but Donlin and Denneberg, I think, have the team chemistry with one another. And you also got to remember that like I said, these two are the reigning AVP League champions on the women's side. So there you have it. So, yeah, for these two, it's going to be really, 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 really interesting. As Brian Francione actually pops into the chat room, he says, "Good evening, Teran. Volleyball is starting up soon. Bentley women's team is really good in D2." Oh, yeah, that's absolutely true. I'll be hopefully getting more into that next week. But thank you, Brian, for popping into the for popping into the chat room. I really appreciate it. Good guy that Brian Francione is. A good teammate at IE Sports Radio. I hear he's going to be hosting his show with a certain somebody later on in the football season, but I won't spoil it. Anyway, so in closing, when it comes to Donlin and Denneberg versus Flint and DeBerg, this one's going to be tough, but I actually think Donlin and Denneberg are going to pull it off. Now, I think this one goes 3. I think Donlin and Denneberg now have a better understanding of facing Kylie DeBerg and Betsy Flint. I mean, it's kind of counterproductive to say that Betsy Flint knows Julia Donlin's play style and vice versa, just because Betsy Flint was actually the coach for Denneberg and Donlin for certain beach volleyball matchups. But I think Denneberg and Donlin will get the job done. It's going to be a grinded out 3-set match. There's probably going to be a lot of sweating, a lot of grit and determination, and a lot of digging, and so on and so forth. So yeah. And Brian pops to the chat room. You all can find out at 3 and Out this Saturday, Teran's other show. Yes. Tune into 3 and Out. Tune into all of our shows as well. So yeah. So yes. But in closing, Julia Donlin and Lexi Denneberg get the job done, barely over Betsy Flint and Kylie DeBerg. So they would advance to the semifinals. So now for the other quarterfinal, you have Kelly Cheng and Megan Kraft. Kelly Cheng and Megan Kraft taking on Megan J. Rice and Gina Arango. So Rice and Arango both are Southern California natives. So is Cheng and Kraft. Great job, Teran. Anyway, but Rice and Arango, they both have the chemistry going on. Like, it was a little concerning if they were going to make the final, or the championships, but they actually managed to have themselves the best weekend. They saved the best weekend for last in week 10. I was just overall impressed by those two against the likes of, I think they played Taryn Brasher and Kristen Cruz, and they played someone else. I think they also played the Los Angeles the LA launch, which was Maddie Anderson and Elena Chacon. So, and I think they won both those matchups, which was very big right there, because I don't know if they even get into the AVP League championships, but I digress. That being said, Kelly Cheng and Megan Kraft are probably angry at the fact that they have to play a quarterfinal match. And as much as I like Megan J. Rice and Gina Arango, this one's kind of obvious to predict. Cheng and Kraft are winning the whole, they're winning that matchup, and I think they're going to blow by them. I say this with the utmost respect to Rice and Arango. Now, maybe Rice and Arango will prove me wrong, but look, Kelly Cheng is an Olympian. Megan Kraft is a future Olympian. They have the team chemistry going on. I don't think those two are losing. And look, I don't want to say they're going to blow by Rice and Arango, but this is a matchup nightmare for Rice and Arango. So give me Kelly Cheng and Megan Kraft easy money. So now for the semifinals. My projected semifinals if I recall correctly, I think it's all chalk in the set. I would have all chalk. Am I right? I don't think I am, honestly, but we don't need the Manhattan Beach Open anymore. We don't need this. But for the league championship, I think Donlin and Denneberg. I mean, it doesn't really matter at this point, just because the league champion. You're now in the league championship. This is basically feast or famine. This is eat or be eaten. Basically, you have to be built for this. Okay, Denneberg and Donlin are the 4 seed, while DeBerg and Flint are the 5 seed. But by 1 point. 1 point separates those two in terms of being the 4 or 5 seed. Either way, they're the 4 and 5 seed, respectfully. Anyway, so now for the semifinals. So semifinals, my projected semifinals would be Melissa Humana Paredes and Brandy Wilkerson taking on Julia Donlin and Lexi Denneberg. All right, this is another interesting matchup. So this would be a rematch of last year's AVP League Championship match on the women's side. So, yeah, this would be a very, 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 very fun matchup. And look, Melissa Humana Paredes and Brandy Wilkerson want a little revenge. And the semifinals are going to be played the same day as the quarterfinals. So After the quarterfinals, I think there's going to be like a little bit of a rest break. Maybe the men's side will play, or maybe the other quarterfinal will happen. But as for the semifinals, that will be immediately after like the other quarterfinal matches are done on the men's and women's side. That being said, look, I like Julia Donlin and Lexi Denneberg. I think they're a great duo. They've been known to shock the world. They wound up shocking the world last year when they took down Melissa and Brandy. They shocked the world when they took down the top Brazilian duo, Ana Patricia and Duda, in the Newport Beach Invitational Elite 12. But I think this is where the buck stops with them. And again, I say this with all due respect to Julia and Lexi, but I think Melissa and Brandy take down Julia and Lexi. I think it could be close, but honestly, Brandy and Melissa have it going on. They just won bronze medal in the most recent F5VB or NORSECA tournament. So I think their team chemistry is on a high. So I think Melissa and Brandy should win this one. Maybe it'll go 3, but I can't be overly certain. But also, you got to factor in that Donlin and Denneberg are probably going to be tired from that first matchup. I could see Donlin and Denneberg kind of being gassed after facing a very good Betsy Flint and Kylie DeBerg team. So the other semifinal is another very intriguing matchup. Kelly Cheng and Megan Kraft taking on Teran Brasher and Kristen Cruz. All right, so this is USA Duo versus USA Duo, Olympians versus Olympian/future Olympian. This one is really tough to predict. I mean, here's the thing. Brasher and Cruz have gotten the better of Cheng and Kraft. But consider this. Kraft and Cheng have really turned their game on. And I know they did have a little bit of, they did lose out on the 2 seed, but I think they definitely have a shot against TKN. Now, my thing is for Megan Kraft and Kelly Cheng is that they got to play some of their best ball. And here's the thing. Megan Kraft has experience taking on Teran Brasher and Kristen Cruz, but so does Kelly Cheng. Their team chemistry is what I think is going to be the key to taking down TKN. But that said, I think TKN's team chemistry is still on a high. And that's no disrespect to Kelly Cheng and Megan Kraft because their team chemistry is just as good. That said, I think TKN advances to the championship match. It'll be close, though. I think this one also goes 3. I think this one will go 3. I think after Cheng and Kraft get by Rice and Arango, they have to go 3 against Cruz and Brasher. But I think they fall short. I think it'll be a 3-set barn burner regardless. I think Cruz and Brasher still have it going on. They just wound up winning silver in the most recent NORSECA tournament, the same one that Melissa and Brandy partook in. They did fall to the Brazilian duo of Victoria and Talmela. But honestly, that's not a bad duo to lose to. I mean, these Brazilian duos are just coming out the woodwork. There's Ana Patricia and Duda. There's Victoria and Talmela. There's Rebecca and Carol. These Brazilian beach volleyball duos are just so freaking good, man. But TKN will advance to the championship match. I know it's all chalk in the end, but bear with me. So my women's final of the AVP League Championship will be Melissa Jimona-Paredes and Brandy Wilkerson taking on TKN, Teran Brasher and Kristen Cruz. Man, this one's a tough one. It's only fitting that we get TKN versus Melissa and Brandy. I mean, both these pairs have met up quite a bit with one another. They've met up in the Olympics. They've met up in past AVP tournaments. They've met up in the AVP League. This one is going to feed families. This matchup is going to feed families. But that being said, this one, I really want this one to go 3, but in my honest opinion, it will go 3, but in the end, I have TKN pulling off the win over Melissa and Brandy. Now, I will eat a lot of crow and apologize to Canada if Melissa and Brandy wind up winning the whole thing. But with how USA Volleyball is kind of on a low, when it comes to facing Canada, we need TKN to win. And I say it with all due respect to Melissa and Brandy because they're a darn good duo, but TKN has to represent USA Volleyball to the fullest. All right, so there's that matchup right there. That's that for the women's side. Quick update when it comes to Marquette and Texas. Marquette is up 24. Oh, okay. They just won the fourth set, 25-23. As for the first time in the AVCA first serve, it is going 5 sets. Oh, man. If Texas loses to Marquette, oh, man. I got to see the stats right now. So, Rella Binney is setting. Genevieve Harris is also setting. Tori Stafford has 15 kills, 12 digs. Abby Vanderwall has 13 kills. Ramsey Gary has 14 digs. Kari Spears has 12 kills. Marquette is led by Carson Tyler, who has 17 kills, which is really cool. You also got 7 kills from Tani Jurich. Emma Parks has 6 kills. Marquette's hitting only 138, but they also have 9 blocks and 54 digs. And then for Texas, they have 10 service aces, 21 service errors, 50 digs, 9 blocks, and they are hitting 230, which is pretty good if you ask me. All right, but back over to – I just wanted to give you all that quick game break. All right, so back over to the AVP League Championship preview. So on the men's side, so first matchup we have is Troy Field and Ryan Wilcox taking on – Kame Schulk and James Shaw. All right, this one is an interesting matchup. So this is, I think it's the Brooklyn Blaze versus the New York Nitro. So it's the Battle of New York here. Troy Field and Ryan Wilcox, I'll give them a lot of credit. They really surged very nicely when it came to the final week of the AVP League season. In terms of the regular season. But that being said, Schulk and Shaw have a lot of good team chemistry. This one is another tough matchup to predict. But this time, I'm actually going to go with the quote. Oh, wait, no, this wouldn't be an upset. Schulk and Shaw are the. Yeah, Schulk. Oh, wait. What? Why does it say Schulk and Brunner? Theo Brunner and Kame Schulk. What? Kame Schulk and James Shaw. Okay. AVP. What's going on here? Look, someone's wrong here. The Beach Volleyball database says Kame Schulk and James Shaw, while the AVP League or the AVP website says Theo Brunner and Kame Schulk. I think that's a mistake just because Schulk and Shaw are the duo. So anyway, I'll take Schulk and Shaw in a 3-setter. Is it boring that I'm picking no upsets? Of course. But honestly, I think Kame Schulk and James Shaw pull off the win. I think they've got good team chemistry going on. But I think Ryan Wilcox and Troy Field are playing some good volleyball as of late. They're probably one of the best young duos out there in terms of the AVP and in terms of beach volleyball. So they're not to be slept on. But I think Schulk and Shaw, being the experienced duo, get the job done. So now for the other quarterfinal. So the other quarterfinal is Chase Budinger and Miles Evans taking on Hagen Smith and Logan Weber. So this is the battle of SoCal. The San Diego Smash taking on the LA Launch. All right, this is a fun matchup right here. Smith and Weber are a darn good duo, while Budinger and Evans, we all know who they are. They are AVP League champions from a couple years ago. In addition, they're also Olympians. That being said, I really hate to do this to Smith and Weber just because I think both of them are really – they're both really good, dude. Shoot. I mean, it's tough to, pick against Olympians, though. You know what? I'm going with Chase Budinger and Miles Evans. I'm sorry, but I think Chase Budinger and Miles Evans just get the job done. I really hate picking all chalk, but – I mean, can you blame me, though? It's the 3 versus 6 matchup is really tough. But you never know with Hagen Smith. Hagen-Smith can really serve the stuffing out of the ball, and Logan Weber is a veteran. But that said, I think Budinger and Evans get the job done. I don't think it's going to be easy, though. I think Smith and Weber are going to throw everything in the kitchen sink at Budinger and Evans. So basically, my semifinals would be Andy Benish and Taylor Crabb taking on Kame Schulk and James Shaw. And then the other semifinal would be Chase Budinger and Miles Evans taking on Trevor Crabb and Phil Dahlhauser. So the first semifinal I would have is Andy Benish and Taylor Crabb taking on Kame Schulk and James Shaw. So it's the battle of the old dogs when it comes to this matchup. But, well, actually, no, Andy Benish is young. What am I talking about? But Taylor Crabb and Andy Benish, they have it going on. They are one heck of a duo. They wound up winning the Manhattan Beach Open. They wound up winning the Huntington Beach Open. They're really good, and they're going to probably be the duo heading in. It's only a matter of time before they qualify for the Olympics. Look, I'm going to keep it a buck. Benish and Crabb take down Schulk and Shaw. I think experience is going to matter, but also team chemistry is going to matter. But I think Crabb and Benish are just riding the high of highs after winning the Manhattan Beach Open. So give me Benish and Crabb easy. And that's no disrespect to Shaw and Schulk. I think they're just as capable of keeping up with Crabb and Benish, but honestly, I think it's got to be Crabb and Benish. So the other semifinal is Chase Budinger and Miles Evans taking on Trevor Crabb and Phil Dahlhauser. So it's the new school Olympians taking on the old school Olympians. Now, I'm not sure the status of Phil Dahlhauser. Is he going to be better by the time? Because remember, in the Manhattan Beach Open, he suffered an injury. I think it was a lower leg injury, and he had to sit out the rest. He and his other partner, I think it was Kame Schulk, they had to sit out the rest of the tournament, or they had to drop out of the tournament. So I'm not sure on the potential game time period, or the time frame on if Phil Dahlhauser will be ready. But this just kind of goes to show that some of these old dogs or the old school players from the AVP still have it in them. It's just that unfortunately, father time is kind of catching up with them. When some of these players start to retire, like Tim Baumgren, I'm going to be sad. Anyway, as for this matchup, this one's going to be tough. Olympians versus Olympians. I don't know who to pick, but Budinger and Evans are the young guns. But Trevor Crabb and Phil Dahlhauser have experience. Their team chemistry is on point. Look, this is going to be boring, but I gotta take Phil Dahlhauser and Trevor Crabb. But it's going to be a 3-set barn burner. I still think Evans and Budinger might be tired from their quarterfinal matchup against Weber and Smith. Even though they're going to get enough rest and relaxation and recovery, I still think Trevor Crabb and Phil Dahlhauser have what it takes to win their way to the championship match. Which would mean my championship match on the AVP League Championship men's side would be Taylor Crabb and Andy Benish taking on Trevor Crabb and Phil Dahlhauser. Yes, I have a crab boil going on. This one's going to be fun. And this one's for all the marbles. And I can, by the way, can I also just mention, if there's ever for the Budinger, Evans, and Crabb Dahlhauser matchup, Trevor Crabb Dahlhauser matchup, if it's going to be like that one time, I think it was like in the Huntington Beach Open where Budinger pushed Trevor Crabb and there was a double red card, there's going to be some fireworks. But I think Trevor Crabb and Phil Dahlhauser just barely get by Budinger and Evans. So, yeah, I got the Crab Boil, the Miami Mayhem, and the Palm Beach Passion. This one's a really tough matchup to predict. But it's basically semi-old school. I mean, Benish is the only young guy when it comes to the four. But Taylor Crabb is just so freaking good, dude. He's still freaking good at his age. But you also got the Slim Reaper in Phil Dahlhauser, and then Trevor Crabb is just fantastic. That said, this one's not going to be an easy matchup to predict, but I actually have Andy Benish and Taylor Crabb winning. I think Andy Benish's blocking and Taylor Crabb's serving is going to be the key for this matchup. And I still think there's just too much uncertainty when it comes to Dahlhauser. I think he's going to play, but even if he does play, I don't think he's going to be 100%. So Dahlhauser and Crabb are really going to have to play their A game if they want to win. So we'll have to wait and see when it comes to that matchup, if it manages to come to fruition. But for right now, I think Benish and Crabb win the AVP League Championship on the men's side. Am I going to be wrong when it comes to some of these matchups? Absolutely. Am I going to be 100% wrong? Hopefully not. Otherwise, I don't know ball. Anyway, but that's that right there for the AVP League Championship. Who do you think is going to win the AVP League Championship on the men's and women's side? But yeah, go to avp.com and basically go to the league website. But I digress. Anyway, so that's that for the AVP League Championship preview. Oh, so back to Texas Marquette. Texas is steamrolling Marquette in set 5, 8-2. Yeah, Texas ain't losing this one. If Texas loses in set 5 after they led by this much, we have a problem. I know it's week 0, but we have a problem. Ladies and gentlemen, we have problems. Anyway, that's that right there. Now let's close off the show by talking some more NCAA women's volleyball. We've got week 1 preview for real this time. And we've got a lot of good we got some good marquee matchups. And hard to believe that we're already going to be entering the month of September. By the way, this Sunday is going to mark 6 years and 11 months of set point. So after Sunday, there's going to be 1 month until set point turns 7 years old, which I think is pretty cool. But yeah, there's going to be a lot of good matchups. You got Pitt versus Kansas. That's a fun matchup. Louisville, Indiana, another good matchup. Stanford, Wisconsin. That is going to be a dream matchup. Purdue, Creighton. That is a very, very enticing matchup. Baylor, San Diego is a sneaky good matchup. San Diego is receiving votes, but we still got to see what they could prove. Oregon, Western Kentucky could also be a good matchup. BYU, Florida State is a solid matchup. An underrated ranked versus ranked matchup that I think is going to be notable to watch for is Long Beach State, UCLA. Am I saying that because of West Coast bias? Sure. But, am I also saying that because Long Beach State is my alma mater? Of course. But come on. Long Beach, it doesn't get much better than UCLA Long Beach State in women's volleyball. Also, keep an eye out for UC Irvine, Washington. Maybe. If UC Irvine beats Washington, that'd be really awesome if you ask me. Anyway, so now let's jump to Saturday. So Saturday you have... Did anything change? Probably. Now it changed. So, okay, Saturday's matchups. You got Texas TCU, number 2 Texas, number 18 TCU. Cal Poly Texas A&M might be the most underrated matchup right there. If there's ever a time for Cal Poly to pull off a top 10 win, to pull off a marquee win ever since they beat USC last year in the round of 32, it's that time. Cal Poly, and beating Texas A&M at Texas A&M would be massive for Cal Poly. That would feed loads of families in terms of mid-majors. So that's a matchup to watch for. You also have USC, Arizona State in South Dakota, which, if SC pulls off that upset against Arizona State, that would undo quite a bit in terms of Arizona State's win over Texas. But I'm really hoping for USC's sake they can pull off the win. SMU Colorado State is also a pretty solid matchup. You also got number 14 Minnesota and number 13 Creighton. That's a fun matchup. Nice 2 ranked versus ranked matchups. Central Arkansas Colorado is a solid matchup. BYU Florida Gulf Coast is a solid matchup. Also UCLA Long Beach State is playing on Saturday as well. Have to give that plug. Long Beach State and UCLA are playing a home and home. So Long Beach State, UCLA on Friday is going to be at Long Beach State. And then round 2 is going to be at Pauley Pavilion. So there you go. So you have that match. So you have those matchups right there. Then Sunday. Oh boy, I forgot. I totally forgot this matchup is happening. I forgot this matchup's happening. So Sunday, we have this matchup. I'm gonna save that for later though. Other matchups that are notable are SMU UC Davis. Look, I'm gonna sound semi Big West Conference biased, even though Davis isn't in the Big West anymore, but that could be a solid matchup. Davis still has some good returners from last year's team, and Davis is hungry to make the NCAA Division I tournament. They had not made the NCAA. They haven't made the postseason since the WVIC or something like that, or the women's volleyball WVCI or something like that. It's the women's college volleyball invitational. There you go. Anyway, but yeah, Davis SMU I think can be a little underrated, but SMU's got so much firepower from the transfer portal, so that's going to be a tough matchup for them, but you never know. I mean, Davis is a solid mid-major. Creighton USC, that's a payback game from last year. I mean, I know Creighton didn't play their best game. They didn't have some of their top players. But I think Creighton's going to come with a vengeance. I really, like I said a couple of weeks ago, if USC can go into the Texas matchup 1-1, that would be ideal for them. But USC is like a top 10 toughest schedule out there. USC is not ducking anybody because they've got, like I said, Arizona State, which Arizona State has a match already under their belt. Creighton, which is going to be still going to be good. And then you got Texas, which is the following week, but we shall see. But yeah, Creighton USC is going to be a very fun matchup right there. Baylor Hawaii, I think, is going to be a very fun matchup. Now, I think that's actually going to be on Saturday, if I'm not mistaken. Just because Hawaii times are so tricky, and I'm sorry. Baylor Hawaii is going to be on Saturday. No, yeah, it is going to be on Saturday. So Baylor Hawaii is going to be on Saturday. I'm sorry. The reason being, and the reason why I think that's going to be an intriguing matchup is because it's the homecoming for Hawaii's new head coach. Well, not homecoming, but a kind of a reunion when it comes to Hawaii's new head coach, Josh Walker, just because Josh wasn't a former assistant for Baylor before coming over to Hawaii. But yeah, it's going to be a very fun matchup just because, well, Hawaii, obviously they missed the NCAA tournament last year. I'm sorry, Hawaii fans, that I have to bring that up. But knowing Baylor, they're going to want to bring their A game against Hawaii because that tournament, I don't think it's called the Outrigger Invitational, but either way, I'm just going to call it the Hawaii Invitational for week 1. Either way, Hawaii Baylor, I think it's going to be a massive matchup. And I think that's it for some of the other notable matches. I mean, UNLV TCU could also be a sneaky good matchup. High Point Penn State can maybe be a little underrated, but let's go into the meat and potatoes of Sunday. So first matchup is Stanford Kansas. That's a very good matchup right there. Kansas has some good stars. Stanford has a good portion of their team returning. I could see Stanford winning this one, but I also can see Kansas winning this one. We're going to really see what Reese Messer has in store for Kansas after transferring from SC. That's going to be the whole all eyes on in terms of players. But Stanford has a good portion of their team back, like Erica Sayer, Julia Blyashov, Spencer Etzler. Maya Harvey is the one that Stanford. You also have Taylor Yu, even though I don't think she got too much playing time. But bottom line is that Stanford is still loaded this year, even though they lost quite a bit to graduation. And then also on Sunday, you got number 4 Pitt and number 6 Wisconsin. This is the battle of the two teams that made the Final Four last year. This could be a potential NCAA tournament preview. And I think it's kind of also another payback game for Wisconsin from, I think, 3 years ago when Pitt beat them in 5 in the Elite 8. But this one's going to be a very fun matchup. If you want my honest opinion when it comes to Pitt, Wisconsin, I think Pitt could roll past Wisconsin just because Pitt has experience. But at the same time, it's that Wisconsin, if they serve the stuffing out of that ball, I think Wisconsin can win this matchup as well. Bottom line is that one is a top 10 matchup to die for. And just as a quick game break, Texas did take down Marquette, winning set 5, 15-8. Well, that's kind of I wouldn't say it was a drag, but it is what it is. Marquette gave it their all, but Texas with that match under their belt, I thought was just too much for them. And Texas could ill afford to go into their next matchup, into their next match, until their next weekend, 0-2, just because they're going to be playing at T-Mobile Center, which is going to be the host of the NCAA Men's Volleyball Final Four National Championship. Fun fact. But this Sunday is the match of the week. Number 2 Texas versus number 1 Nebraska. Oh boy. I don't even remember the last time these two teams met in the regular season, but this matchup is going to be the matchup that feeds families. This matchup is going to be juicy. It's going to be dramatic. There's going to be Texas fans talking smack. There's going to be Nebraska fans talking smack. This is the matchup to watch for this week. This is a very fun matchup, and I can't wait. I actually almost forgot that this was going to be this weekend. August just flew by so quickly, dude. I am very surprised that we're already at the end of August. And how fitting that Nebraska's playing Texas, because I think this is the 3-year anniversary of Volleyball Day in Nebraska, which had 92,003 in attendance at Memorial Coliseum or Memorial Stadium. Either way, Nebraska and Omaha drew 92,003 in attendance, which I thought was really awesome, if you ask me. I wonder if there'll ever be another Volleyball Day in Nebraska. Maybe have it every 4 years or every 5 years, but I digress. Anyway, Nebraska, Texas. Oh, we're already getting some hot takes here. Some are saying Nebraska's going to win in 4. I want this to go 5. I don't want this to go 4. I don't want anyone to beat the other in terms of a 3-set sweep. Give me at least 4. I'm not going to make a prediction just because I don't want to get dunked on by Texas and Nebraska fans. I know y'all are going to say I'm a coward, but I don't want to get clipped or cold takes exposed or bad takes exposed or whatnot. I really just can't predict this matchup. I'm sorry. I just don't have I plead the fifth when it comes to this matchup. Nebraska is going to be really good, obviously, with a lot of their team coming back with Bergen Riley, Andy Jackson, Harper Murray, Virginia Adriano, Olivia Mock. The list goes on and on. Manaya Obeche. This matchup is going to be extremely fun. And then Texas, will we see Ella Swindle in this matchup? That depends. It's not my turn to watch Ella Swindle. I'm not Jarrett Elliott, by the way. But yeah, you got Kari Spears, you got Tori Stafford, you got Abby Van der Waal. This matchup is going to feed families for days. If you're at this matchup, I envy you just because this is going to be a barn burner. And how fitting that this matchup would be the matchup, just because, well, Texas and Nebraska are facing one another, and it doesn't get any better than that when it comes to women's volleyball. I mean, there are other rivalries, but I don't think Nebraska-Texas can be topped by any other rivalry. And then also on Monday, you've got Dayton-Louisville. That is an underrated matchup. I didn't know those two were playing on Monday, but Dayton-Louisville is a very underrated matchup just because Dayton is a perennial NCAA tournament team, and then Louisville obviously is a talented team that makes Sweet 16, Elite 8, maybe a few national championship runs. But I think that one's going to be a very fun matchup. And the best part is it's going to be at 3 p.m. Pacific time, which means I'll be able to recap that matchup next week on Set Point. But that'll do it for the week 1 preview. I know I kind of went rapid fire, but let's actually recap the Texas-Marquette matchup, and then I'll send you all on your way. So Texas was led by Tori Stafford, who had 19 kills, 12 digs. She had 341. Abby Vanderwall had 14 kills. She had 250. Kari Spears had 17 kills. She had 371. She also had 7 digs. Ramsey Gary had 16 digs. As a team, Texas hit 258. They also had 10 service aces and 11 blocks. Marquette, on the other hand, they had 59 digs, 12 blocks. They only hit 104. They were led by Carson Tyler, who had 18 kills. They also got 17 kills from Tani Jurich and 6 kills from Emma Parks. It wasn't enough, however, as Marquette took down Texas. And I can't really talk about this matchup just because I didn't really get a chance to see it. Hopefully I'll be able to rewatch it, hopefully, but I digress. But yeah, Texas winning is no surprise. I just think Texas going into the whole UNLV Invitational with a record of 0-2 would be ill-advised. So that's not Texas' standards by any means, and we all know it. So anyway, that is it for that little matchup right there, and that's it for the entire NCAA women's volleyball kit and caboodle. And ladies and gentlemen, that's going to do it for this week's episode of Set Point. Set Point of episode 1 of season 8 is officially here. I cannot wait to bring you all more content. I want to bring you all more guests. I'm going to try my darndest to bring more guests on, just because it makes the show more exciting and it makes it a little bit less dull, if you ask me. Not that I'm calling my own show dull, but it kind of gets a little lonely being the only one that talks volleyball for about an hour plus straight. But that'll do it for Set Point. For everyone here at IE Sports Radio, this is Teran Rodriguez signing off. Have a great rest of the evening. I appreciate the 100 of you that tuned in live. And for those that watch and listen on the playback, I appreciate you as well. I'll be back next Monday for another episode of Set Point. But until then, have a great week and enjoy all the volleyball content and enjoy all of NCAA women's volleyball being back. Take care, everybody. Peace.
Whoa! Whoa! Set Point!